Good evening. Happy Deepawali to all who are celebrating. My name is Cynthia Ng. You are tuning in to AWANI tonight. Sarawak election is imminent. EC to hold special meeting to discuss details and date. And we take a closer look at the largest budget yet. Will the generous allocation benefit all Malaysians? That's coming up. The Election Commission has confirmed that the Sarawak election is imminent. EC Secretary Dato' Ikmaluddin Ishaq said the Commission will be holding a special meeting to discuss the implementation. The date of the election, however, has yet to be confirmed. On Wednesday, the Yang di-Pertuan Agong consented to lifting the emergency proclamation in Sarawak, following which Governor Tun Abdul Taib Mahmud officially dissolved the State Assembly effective November 3rd, paving the way for the 12 state elections to be held within 60 days. Political youth movement Undi 18 and Undi Sarawak expressed their concern that thousands of Sarawakian youths will be denied their rights to vote in the upcoming state election.
On September 3rd, the Kuching High Court has ordered the federal government to implement the lowering of voting age and automatic registration by 31st December.
It will disenfranchise roughly 135,000 Sarawakian voters, and the PM itself confirmed that Undi 18 will be implemented starting January next year. With the revocation of the Sarawak emergency, it will lead to the dissolution of Dewan Undangan Negeri, and election will be held 60 days afterwards. And I don't think that after the revocation of the emergency, Undi 18 will be implemented for the Sarawakian voters for this incoming PRS. The only sensible things that for the government to do is to create a new time frame for the implementation of Undi 18, which was being promised to be implemented early next year, so that in the next PRS, Sarawakian youth will be able to exercise their voting right.
In July, the Yang di-Pertuan Agong proclaimed a 6-month emergency in Sarawak from August 2nd to February 2nd, 2022 in view of the COVID-19 pandemic. The King assented to lifting the emergency in Sarawak on Wednesday, paving the way for elections to be held within 60 days.
David also highlighted how holding 2 state elections in Malacca and Sarawak at the same time will potentially bring more harm than good.
I don't think that Malaysia is ready to face yet another election as what we have seen in post-PRN Sabah, because we are still in a transitional phase and still adapting for a COVID-19 recovery plan. And on average, Sarawak reported around 500 cases and more than 10 deaths daily. Going forward with an election, it will lead to an increase in number of cases due to social events held in conjunction with the election. And not to mention, Malaysia will be having 2 state elections side by side if PRN Sarawak will be held. So my biggest fear is post-PRN Sabah COVID-19 effect will repeat itself, but in a far greater magnitude.
To prevent a resurgence in COVID infections, David underscored the importance to enforce strict and fair SOPs.
The election committees and the government should implement a set of SOPs which will not hinder an effective political campaigning for every party participating. Weaponizing COVID-19 SOPs will handicap each other's, and it should be avoided at all costs. Thus, I would like to emphasize that SOPs should be fair and just and unbiased, as any SOPs will be flung, whether it's good SOPs or perfect SOPs, if those formers are absent.
Past President Datuk Sri Abdul Hadi Awang and his deputy Datuk Sri Tuan Ibrahim Tuan Man remain as top party leaders. They retain their position after winning uncontested in the party election for the 2021-2023 session. Past Secretary General Datuk Sri Taqiyuddin Hassan said that 4 candidates will contest for the 3 VP posts. 3 of them are incumbents, namely Religious Affairs Minister in the PM's department, Idris Ahmad, Kelantan Deputy Menteri Besar, Datuk Nik Muhammad Amar Nik Abdullah, and Terengganu Menteri Besar, Datuk Sri Dr. Ahmad Samsuri Mokhtar. The new candidate is Dr. Muhammad Zudi Marzuki, formerly a past Central Working Committee member. The 67th Annual Assembly is scheduled to be held in Kuala Terengganu on Saturday and Sunday. Parents and guardians are advised to ensure teenagers get their second COVID-19 jab. The Health Ministry found that there have been teenagers who failed to turn up for their second dose appointments in the past week.
Deputy Health Minister Datuk Dr. Nur Azmi Ghazali said based on earlier projections, the second dose rate should have reached 80% on November 11th. But now this target will only be achieved in late November or early December. He said that parents who had to reschedule the second dose appointment can contact the school for a new one, while those who can't accompany their children for their appointments can request for another adult to represent them by filling up a form available at the school. As of yesterday, 83.3% of teenagers have received their first dose of COVID-19 vaccine, while 69.8% received the second dose.
The government announced the biggest budget yet, with 332 billion ringgit allocated in 2022 to spur economic recovery. But will the generous allocation benefit all Malaysians, and how is it different than previous years? We speak to economist from Malaysia University of Science and Technology, Professor Dr. Jeffrey Williams.
Jeffrey is of the view that universal grants work better than targeted schemes to reach Malaysians who may have fallen through the cracks.
That is my real concern, actually. The fact that it's not just this budget, it's every single budget I've seen for the last 18 years. They will present a targeted approach, and they will say, I want to give it to this group, or I want to spend it on this activity, technology, green growth, training, e-commerce, and they will have these specific programs, specific targets, specific regions. Sometimes Sabah and Sarawak is different to different parts, different ethnic groups, and so on. And when they have this targeting approach, it looks like they're being very precise and very forensic and allocating things in a very ordered and very well-managed way. But as you said, the truth is that there are a whole group of people who just fall through that web. They don't fit into any of those groups ever. And so they don't get anything. And this is why my recommendation was to say, you shouldn't have this targeting, because this targeting actually isn't forensic in the way that you present it. It's not. Actually, what you should do is to say all SMEs in this COVID period have suffered, right? All of one way or another, they have suffered. And all of them need help. And they know what they need to spend money on. They know much better than the minister, much better than any civil servant in Putrajaya. They know. It's much better to have a universal grant given to everybody, rather than to try to focus it on particular topics.
He urged the government to better utilize data than handing out assistances and to make the process easier for SMEs and micro SMEs.
So the government does have a much richer database of companies now who are in need of assistance. And another source of data is through LHDN, because companies have to file their taxes. And of course, the primary source of data is through SSM, the Companies Commission, because all companies are registered with the Companies Commission. So if you are able to offer some basic documentations to demonstrate that you are an established company, that you are in fact doing business, or you have been doing business in the last year or 2 years, then you could be just straightforwardly eligible for a direct grant. And the direct grant would be allocated to you to spend as you wish. You see, there are about 1 million micro, small and medium-sized enterprises registered, actively registered with the Companies Commission. And if you gave each one of those a grant of 10,000 ringgit, it would only cost 10 billion ringgit. Now, the government's budget, of course, is now 332 billion. So 10 billion out of 332 billion is perfectly affordable.
We will take a short break. Stay with us.
Ayuh keluarga Malaysia, Kita bulatkan tekad dan bersatu hati untuk terus memelihara serta mempertahankan kedaulatan negara. Sebagai keluarga Malaysia yang besar, kita harus bertoleransi dalam semua perkara. Hormat menghormati serta mengekalkan perpaduan rakyat yang berbilang kaum, agama dan bangsa serta integrasi nasional silang budaya adalah tunjang kekuatan kita sebagai sebuah negara bangsa yang berjaya. Umpama selembar benang dikait, ditenun dan dijalin, akhirnya menjadi kain yang sempurna indah.
Welcome back. Health officials warned that Germany is entering a fourth wave of the pandemic and called for more people to get vaccinated against COVID-19. Germany reported nearly 34,000 new infections today, the highest daily increase since the start of the pandemic last year. Countries across Europe have been reporting rises in COVID infections, prompting debate over whether to reintroduce restrictions and how to persuade more people to get vaccinated. German Health Minister Jens Spahn said the fourth wave is in full force, pointing to the rising number of patients in ICUs in certain regions, especially those where the vaccination rate is lower. More than 66% of the German population is fully vaccinated, but a recent survey showed that the vast majority of adults who have yet to receive a vaccine have no intention of doing so. Germany has been administering booster shots, but as of Wednesday, only 6.7% of people over 60 had received one. France will mandate wearing face masks again in schools in 39 areas as COVID cases rise steadily in the country. The move comes just days before schools are set to reopen on Monday. Last month, the government had already reinstated mask wearing for primary school kids in 22 areas. According to authorities, cases had risen above 50 per 100,000 people per week in the 39 areas, crossing the alert threshold. France reported its highest daily COVID cases on Wednesday since mid-September, breaching the 10,000 mark. An American woman who spent 7 years in jail in Bali for helping kill her mother was arrested in the U.S. upon being deported from Indonesia. 26-year-old Heather Mack was taken into custody when she arrived at the Chicago airport after being freed early on good behavior from a Bali prison. The Justice Department said Mack was indicted for the same crime in U.S. court on charges of conspiracy to kill in a foreign country, conspiracy to commit foreign murder of a U.S. national, and obstruction. Mack was convicted in 2015 for working with her boyfriend, Tommy Schaefer, to kill her 62-year-old mother by hitting her with a fruit bowl at a luxury hotel in Bali. During the attack, Mack hid in a bathroom, but later helped Schaefer stuff the victim's body into a suitcase. Mack was sentenced by an Indonesian court to 10 years in prison, where she gave birth to a daughter. A 36-year-old man has been charged for abducting a 4-year-old girl in Western Australia. Police released an audio clip of the moment officers found Cleo Smith in a locked home after she went missing for 18 days.
Come here. I've got you, Bobby.
What's your name?
You're alright.
What's your name? What's your name, sweetheart?
My name is Cleo.
Your name
You're
is
alright,
Cleo.
Bobby.
Hello, Cleo.
Cleo disappeared from her family's tent at a remote campsite near the town of Carnarvon on October 16th, triggering a massive search in the state. Police found Cleo alive on Wednesday morning after they smashed their way into a house in Carnarvon following forensic clues. Meanwhile, public buildings in the state capital Perth were illuminated with blue lights in tribute to the police to celebrate the rescue of Cleo. Is ethnic party politics still attractive to Indian youth? And what's happened to the much-touted Malaysian-Indian blueprint? Tonight on Consider This, we speak to our guests about addressing the needs of Indian society. And that is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. Get the latest news updates on COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines from Astro AWANI and Astro AWANI app. Once again, happy Deepawali to all who are celebrating. My name is Cynthia Ng. We'll see you again.